too bad. I mean, I feel badly for the family.
President Donald Trump is sharing his thoughts on former Prince Andrew's royal fallout.
Nobody expected Donald Trump to step into one of the most explosive royal scandals of the decade. Yet out of nowhere, aboard Air Force One, he dropped a line that instantly ignited headlines on both sides of the Atlantic. When asked about King Charles stripping Prince Andrew of his title, Trump didn't hesitate. He said it was a terrible thing that had happened to the royal family, and that he felt badly for them. It was a brief comment, but the shockwave it triggered was massive. Because the moment those words left his mouth, they collided with years of quiet tension, buried secrets, and a scandal the monarchy has been trying to distance itself from for over a decade. And strangely, this wasn't just a royal story anymore. Suddenly, US politics, old photographs, forgotten letters, and long-whispered rumors were being dragged back into the spotlight, all because of a single sentence. But what made this moment so explosive wasn't just what Trump said. It was why he said it now. And the deeper you look, the stranger this timing becomes. Trump was casually answering questions when a reporter asked about King Charles' decision, a decision that shocked even royal insiders. Without missing a beat, Trump called it tragic, adding that he felt sorry for the entire family. In isolation, those words might have seemed like simple. If you love real, respectful royal updates, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to UK Celebooze. Your support keeps these stories coming. Empathy. But coming from someone who once shared the same social circles as Epstein, someone who had been photographed with him, joked beside him, and eventually distanced himself from him, it immediately raised eyebrows. People weren't just asking what Trump said. They were asking why he said it at all, and why now. Because just days earlier, the monarchy had taken one of the most brutal actions in its modern history. What happened next wasn't the whole story, but it was the spark. When Buckingham Palace announced that King Charles had stripped Prince Andrew of his prince title, it wasn't a symbolic gesture. It was a historic one, a public message that the crown was finally drawing a hard line. Andrew wasn't just losing a title. He was losing his home, his privileges, and the last pieces of protection the monarchy had extended for years. Royal insiders described the timing as sudden, brutal, and unprecedented, and behind the scenes, it was even more drastic. Charles had reportedly been pressured for months to act. Advisors worried Andrew's continued presence near the royal court was creating a shadow the institution couldn't shake off. The palace feared every public appearance risked reopening the past, but few believed Charles would go as far as removing Andrew's title. Then the palace confirmed the rumors. Andrew, 65, was no longer Prince Andrew. He was simply Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. It was a move some royal historians described as the final nail in his public life. What came next only added to the chaos. But even this wasn't the full story, because Andrew didn't fall out of favor overnight. For years, Prince Andrew had been a quiet storm brewing behind palace walls. His longtime ties to Epstein, the disgraced financier surrounded by one of the darkest scandals of the century, had turned into a constant source of tension. Even before Epstein's downfall, whispers followed Andrew everywhere, unexplained trips, unusual friendships, and photographs that kept resurfacing. The palace had hoped time would dull the backlash. Instead, it intensified. New documents, resurfaced testimonies, and endless political pressure in Britain kept dragging the story back into the spotlight. Every time the monarchy tried to move forward, the scandal dragged them backward. Political commentators warned that Andrew's presence was a poisoned anchor, weighing down the entire royal institution. And when the palace realized they couldn't contain the narrative anymore, Charles made the call. The kind of call if you love real, respectful royal updates, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to UK Celebooze. Your support keeps these stories coming. No monarch wants to make, publicly cutting off your own brother. But Andrew wasn't the only one whose past with Epstein was being re-examined. Trump's sudden sympathy brought up a complicated history many people had forgotten. When Trump spoke about Andrew, critics immediately pointed out the elephant in the room. Trump himself had once been friendly with Epstein. They had been photographed together at parties. They shared mutual acquaintances. They moved in the same luxurious social circles during the early 2000s. Trump has repeatedly claimed they later had a falling out, long before Epstein was jailed. But his comments still triggered a rush of renewed attention because, just weeks earlier, a controversial note had surfaced, a birthday letter that Democrats said Trump once wrote to Epstein years ago. The note ended with a line that spread rapidly across social media: "May every day be another wonderful secret." The White House denied the letter's authenticity, but the timing of its release created a storm. So when Trump suddenly defended the royal family, and by extension, indirectly, Andrew, critics began making connections. Even if those connections were speculative, even if they were unverified, the internet wasn't interested in nuance. It wanted headlines. And in a scandal this tangled, every new detail became fuel. But this wasn't just about Epstein or Andrew anymore, because Trump's comment collided with a political firestorm already underway. Long before Trump made his comment, both Democrats and some Republicans had been demanding the release of government files tied to Epstein's case. Lawmakers wanted transparency, activists wanted answers, and online communities wanted the truth behind the hundreds of accusations that had been buried, sealed, or quietly dismissed. So when Trump's words hit the news cycle, people immediately questioned whether this was a strategic deflection, a political message, or just a poorly timed comment. Nobody knew, but everyone had an opinion. And suddenly, the Andrew scandal, a story the monarchy hoped had finally reached its end, had crossed into American political territory. And once that happened, control was gone. The conversation expanded, speculation intensified, and people started If you love real, respectful royal updates, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to UK Celebooze. Your support keeps these stories coming. Visiting the one question the palace dreaded most: how much did Andrew really know? And was Charles cutting him off to protect the institution, or to prevent more fallout? But the royal family wasn't just facing public outrage. They were facing internal conflict. Inside the palace, Andrew's downfall wasn't a sudden decision. It was a slow collapse that had been unfolding privately for years. The public saw the final announcement, but insiders say the real battle had been raging behind closed doors. Some aides believed Andrew still didn't grasp the severity of the situation. Others claimed he resisted every attempt to limit his role. A few insiders even suggested that Andrew felt targeted, convinced he was being pushed out to protect the institution, not because of any personal accountability. Meanwhile, King Charles was facing pressure from every direction. Public opinion polls had turned brutal. Politicians were questioning the monarchy's integrity. Senior advisors warned that delaying the inevitable was becoming dangerous. But perhaps the strongest pressure came from behind palace walls, from Prince William. Rumors inside the royal circle claimed William had grown increasingly frustrated with Andrew's shadow over the family. The scandal didn't just affect Charles, it affected the future king. William reportedly believed that if they didn't act firmly now, the institution would pay for it later. Whether those claims are entirely true or exaggerated by insiders, they lined up perfectly with the tone of recent months. Charles appeared tired of defending a brother whose choices continued to haunt them. William appeared determined to protect the monarchy he would one day inherit. And caught in the middle was Andrew, a man watching every piece of his royal identity slowly disappear. The final blow wasn't just losing his title. It was the message that came with it. You are no longer part of the crown's future. But Andrew's reaction only made the situation worse. When the public announcement hit, Andrew didn't release a statement. But according to insiders close to his circle, he was furious. Not heartbroken, furious. Sources claimed he felt blindsided and betrayed. After years of being shielded, funded, and protected, he allegedly believed he deserved more loyalty from the family. But the reality was harsh. His Windsor home? Gone. His staff? Gone. His public role? Erased. His military honors? Removed long ago. The only thing left was his title as Duke of York. And even that, some politicians argued, should be revoked. Privately, Andrew has been described as a man living in denial, telling close friends he could still make a public comeback. But every royal expert agreed that comeback will never happen. The stigma is too strong. The scandal too deep. The palace too determined to disappear him quietly. If you love real, respectful royal updates, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to UK Celebus. Your support keeps these stories coming. Rumors even suggested he might be moved to a remote royal estate, possibly Sandringham or Balmoral, out of public sight, far from cameras, and even further from influence. A royal exile, but without the sympathy Meghan and Harry once received. Andrew's exile was punishment, not escape. And hearing Trump defend the royal family, indirectly brushing against Andrew's humiliation, only poured gasoline on the fire. Because some saw it as validation, others saw it as provocation. But everyone saw the irony. Trump's comments seemed simple on the surface. He said he felt bad for the royal family. He said it was a terrible situation. But in a story filled with tension, timing is everything. Because his words came only days after Charles made the boldest move of his reign. Andrew disappeared from Windsor. US lawmakers reignited the Epstein debate, and Democrats surfaced the controversial note allegedly written by Trump. If Trump had spoken months earlier, maybe it wouldn't have mattered. But right now, every word carried weight. People questioned everything. Why sympathize now? Was it political? Was it personal? Was he defending the institution or someone inside it? Critics claimed it sounded like Trump was trying to downplay the severity of Andrew's downfall. Others wondered if he was creating distance from his own past. Even if none of that was true, the internet didn't care. This story was too big, too messy, and too emotionally charged for subtlety. And once again, Andrew's scandal was dragged back into the center of a global conversation, something the palace desperately hoped to avoid. But the deeper impact wasn't in the headlines. It was in what this meant for the monarchy going forward. King Charles has earned several nicknames since becoming monarch, but the one that stuck recently was the cleanup king. The moment he took the throne, he inherited years of unresolved problems, scandals, strained relationships, shifting public support, and a growing divide within the family. But the Andrew situation was the darkest cloud, and removing Andrew's title wasn't just discipline, it was strategy. Charles wanted to reshape the monarchy into a modern, disciplined institution. He wanted to distance the crown from decades of silent protection, internal favoritism, and behind-the-scenes shielding. Experts say this wasn't just a punishment for Andrew, it was a warning to everyone else. If you love real, respectful royal updates, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to UK Celebus. Your support keeps these stories coming. No one, not even the king's own brother, is untouchable. And this shift has sparked an entirely new debate in Britain, a debate about the future of the monarchy in an era where every mistake is magnified and every scandal becomes global. Even without saying a word, Harry and Meghan's names were dragged into the conversation. If Andrew was punished so severely, would future scandals involving anyone else be handled just as aggressively? Was this the beginning of a harsher monarchy? Or was it simply a desperate attempt to recover public trust? Nobody knows. But what became clear is that Charles isn't afraid to cut ties, even with family. And Trump's comments forced the world to look at that decision all over again. What came next was the question nobody could agree on. Even after losing his title and home, Andrew's story doesn't feel finished. Not because he wants a comeback, but because scandals like this rarely fade quietly. Several legal questions remain unresolved. New documents continue to surface. Political pressure in the US is rising again, and Andrew's forced removal from royal life may only intensify curiosity instead of ending it. The palace hopes this is the final chapter, but scandals tied to Epstein have a way of resurfacing. They never stay buried, they never disappear. And the moment Trump spoke, the entire situation was thrown back into the spotlight. Andrew is isolated, Charles is firm, William is preparing for a future without him, and the world is watching, waiting to see whether the monarchy can outrun a scandal that has followed them for nearly 2 decades. This wasn't the ending they wanted. It was the ending they hoped to survive. For decades, the British royal family has weathered scandals, divorces, affairs, family feuds. But nothing compared to this, because this time, the damage wasn't personal, it was institutional. Charles made a choice that no monarch wants to make. He sacrificed family to protect the throne, and Trump's unexpected sympathy brought the entire situation back into the global conversation, proving that the shadow of the Epstein scandal still reaches across borders, governments, and generations. The palace may hope this chapter fades, but every leak, every interview, every political demand keeps it alive. This story is far from finished, and the world is still watching what happens next.